I'll be very honest with you folks. I thought for a long time it was just me, but I'm starting to see this online more and more now. So I thought I would start off this video with a quick poll. How many of you out there, sometime in the last year or two, have thought about the idea of just getting away from it all? Wondering what it would take to perhaps find a thick, dense patch of forest somewhere and creating some type of a cabin way up off the forest floor, way up in the trees, and just waiting all of this out to see how it turns out. Only perhaps making an appearance back in civilization to get supplies, and then just disappearing back into the trees and not having anything to do with anybody. Not necessarily because you think every single person out there is evil, but because it's just something you need to do to keep your peace. That there is no real safe place other than perhaps way off the forest floor, way up in the trees somewhere. I didn't create this, I'll be very honest, but I think a lot of people look at this and they go, yeah, you know what? I could live there. I could live there. Maybe even after a while, expand, branch out, maybe one or two close friends, like-minded friends. Maybe we could kind of help each other get along. I'm seeing this more and more. And like I said, I thought it was just me. And, perhaps even after, a decade or so, you could have a place like this. I don't know if we have a decade, though. I'll be honest with you. Love him or hate him, if you're this wealthy and you have this much wherewithal, he was asked by Brett Baer what his greatest concern was, and he said that humanity is dying. And I think he was close in the sense that he really meant civilization is dying. The civilized world is being slowly pushed back, and what it's being replaced with is something that I don't think a lot of people would want to live to see. Now, a lot of the content that would be associated with talking about this, unfortunately, is not something YouTube is too friendly to, but it was some years ago when I started to see this, and I created the Patreon channel. It was very small. It was just a very small group of people, and they were very loyal, and we started to build, and people started to talk, and a few more people showed up, and a few more people showed up, and we've got quite a community over there. We have kind of our little treehouse over there now, so to speak, where we can kind of just lay it all out like we used to be able to, or at least like we thought we'd be able to, having First Amendment rights. But I think a lot of people have learned that those rights that are written down on paper somewhere in Washington, D.C. really aren't worth the ink anymore, because it just goes down to, who's in control of the media, and we know who that is. So if you'd like to join our Treehouse group over at Patreon, would love to have you over there. It's the very base level, $2 a month, even less. You sign up for an entire year. And there's 4 levels, 2, 5, 10, and 15. Tons and tons and tons of content over there. Hours and hours going back many, many years. So, and like I said, fully refundable first 90 days, no questions asked. How many of you out there would have thought that by 2025, there would be women and men in their 70s having no other choice but to go back to work? Social Security's not enough. Pensions aren't enough. The government's doing nothing, even with food stamps, even with the help of their family and local church. There's still not enough. They have to go wait tables or run cash registers or wash dishes or do anything they can. How many of you know somebody? And a lot of people say, well, that was the trap of Social Security. The same thing is happening to young people as well. They've graduated high school. They went and got a degree in something. They went to school and they realized, crap, I can't even afford an apartment. So the young can't afford anything, and the old can't afford anything, and anyone left in the middle is barely hanging on. How many of you thought about this lately? People have fought for so long now, especially here on YouTube and other platforms, about, being ready for the end and being ready to to when everything falls apart, but the crumble didn't happen all at once. It's just happening. It's the death of 1,000 cuts. But what if there was nobody left to surrender to? What if you looked all over the place and you couldn't find anybody, like-minded or otherwise? See, this is what Elon Musk is talking about. And I can't imagine, and I listened to him speak about it. I can, of course, play the 1-minute interview with Bret Baier. If you'd like to find it, it's not hard. Fox News, Bret Baier, Elon Musk, humanity is dying. It's a little 1-minute clip. And he gives some quick statistics. And he literally lays out how bad it is. It's something I've talked about here. I've tried to talk about the idea of people not having children, because people have divorced the idea of having children with the necessary steps that need to happen for people to regularly do the things that result in babies. That's about as PG as I can make it. The very idea of the things that historically were done that led to people getting together and people doing what you need to do, birds and the bees, to have babies, those things have all been shamed and demonized and been, compartmentalized. Well, you can only do it if this, if you can only do it if that, and then if you don't do it, then this age and that age, all this other stuff. And now we see it's just too big of a hassle for the young. It's just, and they can't even afford to support themselves. I'd been hanging on to this for quite some time. Even Home Depot and Lowe's, they're saying now that the job markets, and they would know because they're the ones that sell the things that you need to build houses. The numbers are overstated. It's far worse than what people think. Much, much worse. And I found this little, cartoon image of a underground zombie apocalypse bunker. How many of you remember the stories when they dug up over in, I believe it was Turkey, this huge underground complex that they didn't know was there? It was some farmer's field, and he'd found something, and they dug down, and there was all of these rooms, and you could have had hundreds and hundreds, I think thousands of people could have lived down there. And they didn't find a single body. They did not find one single body in this huge complex. And people were wondering, why did they build it, and then why did they abandon it? I think the same thing might have happened. And this has happened before, when people just stopped having children. Because of one thing or another, something led to something, and usually if it was some type of a disease, there would be bodies left over, but I don't think that's going to be the case with us in this country. It's just going to be a slow, kind of painful to watch, thinning of the herd, and then who's left is going to get thinned. And then after a while, there's just not going to be what we know to be civilization left. And perhaps all that will be left will be a life out in the trees. And people will wonder what happened to the land of the free and the home of the brave and all this good stuff. And I hate to say it, but when you trace all this back to what really started all of this, it's capitalism. Because like it or not, when you look at our founding fathers were National Socialists. They were Christian National Socialists. If you look at their values, you look at what they believed, they didn't believe everybody had a right to vote. They didn't, when they said freedom of religion, they meant freedom of the different veins of Christianity. They didn't believe Satanists had the right to practice. They didn't believe Muslims had the right to practice. They sure as heck didn't believe the Jews had a right to practice, that's for sure. If you go back to, the writings of those people back then, we've just largely misinterpreted what their intentions were. And their life here in America, those folks that came here to America, would be the equivalent of us going to Antarctica right now. If there were a habitable place found under the ice in Antarctica, what the founding fathers of this country did would be the equivalent of us picking up in boats and heading for Antarctica and leaving the government behind, the world of governments behind. They wanted to leave behind Spain, leave behind France, leave behind England, leave behind the Pope. They didn't want to create their own version of it. And I think many of them would have probably, if they had the technology and the ability, would have built like this. So maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe it's because it's 1:45 in the morning on a Sunday morning. I don't know. But I just wanted to put this video out there and ask, have you guys thought about this? Maybe it's just me. God bless. Pray for each other. Pray for me. I'll pray for you. Lift each other up. Like, share, subscribe. And please don't forget, if you have the ability to, join us on Patreon. We'll see you guys next time. Take care.